What's crack-a-lacking? It's your boy Brushmo, just in case you did not know. So welcome to the Never Too Early Draft podcast. As for today, we're going to kick this episode off by going back in time. We're going to go ahead and regrade the 2017 NFL draft classes. As this is the inaugural episode, go ahead and support it on the different podcast distributors. I got listed in the description below: Spotify, Google, Listen Notes, Anchor. If you want to listen to it ad free, or you just want to listen to it on the go, we will be doing a mailbag every 2 weeks. So if you got questions, ask them in this video or the next. Well, the next being the next podcast video. So just a little heads up there. But enough with the nitty gritty. Let's go ahead. Let's get into this sucker, right? Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at these draft classes. Because they're interesting, man. It's fun going back in time sometimes. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to give these guys grades. Overall, let's first just talk about the draft class, because really outside of the first two picks, there's not much to talk about here. Hassan Reddick, took him a minute to really decide how to utilize him best. Ended up being a pretty darn good pass rusher, man. He's more of a rush linebacker, you know. And he's going to fill that role now in Carolina. It's a real shame they couldn't hold on to him, because it sounded like there wasn't much of a market for him. They could have brought him back for cheap. What it was, like 1 year, $8 million. But Budda Baker was one heck of a get. But again, outside of that, there was nothing else in the draft class. Chad Williams never developed. TJ Logan was probably the most productive player outside of the first two rounds. But yeah, overall, I gave it a D, because how I'm attacking this, how I'm going to grade this is, how does the draft class look now and what is it doing for the team? Because overall, you're kind of hoping, they're able to retain these guys, or they're able to get some sort of solid, whether it's maybe some, just solid depth. Like, if they could find a good starter and solid depth, I'll probably give that a B or A grade. I'm not going to mess with pluses and minuses, anything like that. We're just going to go with an A to F scale, real easy. So I gave this a D, because even Budda Baker, unfortunately, it's not like they had, if they were able to bring back Reddick, I definitely would have been a much higher grade. But really, you look at this class and all they're bringing out, or all they have from it right now, is Baker. Maybe it's borderline C, but even average, I expect more than one player out of it, But let's keep this train rolling. We're going to take a look at the Atlanta Falcons. Let me pop this on the board real quick. Watch this. Wow. Look at that, man. Y'all just listen to the podcast, won't even know what happened. The Atlanta Falcons. Man, Tack McKinley, man. He had a pretty solid rookie outing. Never developed, though. Just didn't end up working out. Duke Riley never ended up working out. He was a third-round pick. So really, they did nothing with you typically want to hit once or twice in that top 100. Didn't happen. Their best pick ended up being Kazi, who's not even on the squad anymore. He's with the Cowboys now. Brian Hill, who I thought until today was still on the squad. No, not even him is on the squad. So, I don't know how you can give this anything other than enough. The Falcons got nothing from this draft class. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens, I gave this sucker an A, man. Just look at this. Marlon Humphrey, like it or not, man, he is one of the best corners. He's easily a top 10 corner in the league. He's just as good from the outside as he is from the inside. I love that type of versatility. Tyus Bowser, we're gonna see a lot more of him this year. He's a quality pass rusher, and he's solid in coverage. So I like that. Chris Wormley had a kind of a weird career there, moving to getting traded to Pittsburgh, I believe. So yeah, Tim Williams was solid, depth guy for a little bit. But Chuck Clark late, man. Chuck Clark late. You would think my best pick is Humphrey, but man, Clark is great value. He's a solid safety. I mean, I don't think he's like top 15 or anything in the league, but he's solid, man. He comes in and does his job. This is easily an A class. Easily. I mean, look, just looking at it, they have, yeah, 3 of these guys are starters going into next year. Solid job. Buffalo Bills, they're going to be an A, as well as they will have actually 3 starters from this class going into next year. Zay Jones never worked out, which was a shame, man. I was actually pretty high on Zay Jones. I don't know what happened with that, man. But Deion Dawkins really ended up coming along. I didn't think he was going to work out at tackle. I thought he was going to be better at guard, but he's been solid enough left tackle there. Obviously, White, he's, again, a top 10 corner in the league. Easily their best pick, but Matt Milano, pretty solid linebacker. I'd put him maybe like top 10, easily top 15 in the league. Nate Peterman, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. It didn't work out. But yeah, easily an A class for the Buffalo Bills. I think they did very solid there. Able to get 3 guys that are going to be starters going into next year. And then the Carolina Panthers. Man, this one was a bit tough. I'm not going to dock him any points that Harrison Buckner now is on the Chiefs, and he's now got a Super Bowl ring. I'm not going to knock him for that. Corn Elder, surprisingly, was actually a pretty solid pick. He was actually he was better than expected, I think. I think it was a real shame they weren't able to bring him back. I thought he was actually pretty solid when asked to start last year for the Panthers. But Taylor Moton, great pick. Easily their best pick in this class. Some people would be like, Christian McCaffrey, but running back value is a thing. I'm sorry. Christian McCaffrey is great. And for as versatile as he is, I don't think he replaces the value of other positions, such as tackle, such as quarterback, receiver. Well, obviously quarterback, but receiver, corner, even pass rush. Curtis Samuel would have been nice if they were able to hold on to him, but they ended up not being able to bring him back. But I mean, they got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, so it's not that hard to believe. You don't want to pay your wide receiver 3 like a premium. So I gave it a B overall. Like, I like the Motown pick. McCaffrey's great. He's probably like in the top 3 of the running backs in the NFL, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily get you championships. Just saying. It's just a fact. The Chicago Bears, this is a D, man. Mitch Trubisky, the trade up for Mitch Trubisky. Ugh. I don't know how they got fooled into like, I don't know, man. Mitch Trubisky was just ended up being a terrible, never developed. It sucks. Shaheen either, man. Tight end, he was not too long for the roster either. After a couple of years, I think he ended up going to the Dolphins. I mean, obviously they hit with Eddie Jackson in the 4th. Tariq Cohen, when healthy, is pretty solid scat bat, but that's about it. Eddie Jackson, really good in his own right. He's in that top 15 safety mix. But I mean, you don't want to be saying, coming from this draft, like, well, we got our safety of the future, and he's like a top 15 guy. Like, you got to do better than that when drafting. So I gave it a D, man. I gave it a D. And then the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's look at this first before I dish out the grade. John Ross obviously didn't end up working out with John Ross. Joe Mixon ended up being a pretty solid pick. Jordan Willis and Carl Lawson, you were kind of hoping one of those guys would emerge, and Carl Lawson ended up being the guy. Jordan Willis, I think, ended up going to, was it the Patriots? And ended up like being an okay rotation player. I can't remember, but Carl Lawson, though, they weren't able to keep him. Instead, they paid Trey Hendrickson similar money to do the same thing. But after that, like, nothing, dude. Like, Jordan Evans, like, low key's not that bad of like a 3rd down linebacker. Like he's good depth to have. Jake Elliott, another guy that another kicker ended up going to another team to win a Super Bowl. Good for him. Good for him. But yeah, they're literally walking away from this draft with only Joe Mixon. It's an easy F. This is an F. When I'm just gonna say when the best, like at least in the modern NFL, when the best thing you could say about your draft class was we found our starting running back, I think you did poorly. Cleveland Browns. This one was notorious because they had the 3 first rounders. They ended up trading up on draft day to get Njoku. But Myles Garrett, easy A, man. From he was the first overall pick. There was no consensus number 1 quarterback. Jabril Peppers ended up being like he was an alright player. They couldn't really figure out his role there in Cleveland, but they ended up using him to get OBJ. And now Peppers, he's a solid part of that defense in New York, and OBJ is kind of OBJ. Well, less of what Cleveland thought they were getting, I guess. But Njoku, man, that's another guy that he's got all the talent of the world, man. It hasn't clicked there. We all know what happened with Deshaun Kaiser. Larry Ogunjobi was actually solid depth, but he's now with, I think, the Bengals. So, yeah, no one else really ended up working out on this roster. It's really all they have is Garrett. I ended up giving it an A just because Garrett's, easily, like top 5 at his position. Peppers, they managed to get OBJ from the Peppers trade. Like, come on, that's solid. Let's move to the Dallas Cowboys. I gave this one an F as well. Hear me. Well, I don't think you even need to hear me out. I'm pretty sure you're going to get it after I say Taco. Taco just didn't work out in Dallas. Never did. Chidobe Awuzie, I think he's a fine cornerback too, but now he's no longer on the roster. He's over there in Cincinnati, I believe. Yeah, Cincinnati. Jordan Lewis might be the starting slot, and that's literally the only guy they still have on the roster, I believe. Jordan Lewis might be their starting slot. Anthony Brown also might be. So Xavier Woods was actually a pretty good get in the 6th round. He's a pretty good safety. Probably like a top 25 type of safety. But yeah, now he's in Minnesota. So like literally even Ryan Switzer, he's in Pittsburgh. Like all you can do is look back in this class and say we might have gotten a starting slot corner. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Denver Broncos, I felt all kinds of weird ways about this because literally the only cat they got from this class was Garrett Bortles, and everyone and their mom thought he was going to be a bust after a couple of seasons, which admittedly he was a bit... the big thing that really was tough on him was holding, man. Holds were abundant. But I think at this point now, it's like you can't really deny he might be a top 10 tackle in the league. Like he's really come around. Outside of that, they really have nothing much to talk about this class. I think DeMarcus Walker's still on the squad though. Could be wrong about that. I'll take a quick look. But they haven't gotten much from him, even if he still is. Yeah, I don't see him. Yeah, okay. I didn't think so. So yeah, he's not on the squad. Literally no one is on the squad from this team. Like Jake Butt, the Michigan tight end. Just injuries totally derailed this cat's career, unfortunately. But yeah, Bortles, he's like a top 10 tackle in the league currently. So, I mean, that should say something. So I gave it a D, but literally nothing else in this class kind of sucks. Detroit Lions, I gave it an F. Kenny Golladay, best pick here, easily. Like, literally, they're late in the third round. Late day 2. They were able to get a receiver the caliber of Kenny Golladay. And now he's in New York. For free, by the way. Jamal Agnew, probably one of the better return men in the league. He's elsewhere. Jared Davis, he's elsewhere. Like, all these guys, they're on different teams, and it was essentially for free. So, like, yeah, it's an easy F, man. They got nothing out of this draft class except for a few years of prime Kenny Golladay. Green Bay Packers, I gave this a D, because let's go back to what I was saying about if you look back at your class and you say the best thing about your class is our best pick was the running back. We got a running back. I don't care if you got 2 running backs in this class. It's not a very good class. So, yeah, I gave it a D just because out of respect for Aaron Jones, man, he really is that good. Jamal Williams, they snagged him too, which is kind of wild that Jones ended up being the one to emerge. But it was crazy because I thought Malachi Dupree out of LSU, I thought low-key he was going to be a really good, really sneaky late-round pickup. Just never ended up happening. Travius Adams is kind of yet to be much of anything more than a role player. Kevin Keene, we saw what happened with that this year, but hey, he's, I guess, technically could be a starter going into next year. Josh Jones just... Oh, man, he didn't make it out of season. He didn't make it out of his second season, did he, before he got traded? It was something along those lines. But, yeah, overall, it's a D class. Yeah, it's not that great. Not that great. Wow, they even got Devontae Mays. They grabbed another running back. Wow, they went real deep in running back. And then the Houston Texans. Yo, I know everything with Deshaun Watson's kind of wild right now, but you got your franchise, well, allegedly your franchise quarterback at this point. It's hard to give this an A. I'm going to give it an A, but it's kind of hard with kind of everything up in the air right now with Deshaun Watson. Will he be in Houston? Will he play football again? So I'm going to give this an A with an asterisk. Because if that ends up not being the case, then, oh, yeah, no, totally. Like, oh, man, this turns into fat F. Zach Cunningham's ended up being actually a pretty solid starter. Dante Foreman, man, injuries really derailed that cat's career. Julian Davenport never developed there for Houston at the tackle position. So, yeah, I mean, really, we're only talking about Zach Cunningham. But if Deshaun Watson ends up playing again, then... Because keep in mind, they extended him. He's on a new deal, essentially. The whole plan is he will play for them in the future. He is their future quarterback. He is the franchise. So, yeah. Colts, I gave a big fat F, man. Malik Hooker, man, we've seen glimpses of Malik Hooker, but we haven't seen enough of Malik Hooker. That's why, is he still a free agent, man? I think he is. Which, I mean, technically the second part of free agency just started. Yeah, he's currently a free agent still. Yeah, I think he was hurt much of last year. But Quincy Wilson, I think he was one of the guys. Him and Tabor, I can't remember which, had the really bad 40 time. One of the two. But looking at where they did hit in this class, Grover Stewart. He's a solid 0 tech. Top notch. Marlon Mack, obviously, kind of got replaced in the lineup, but he's coming back. So he's part of a pretty mean running back rotation there. But probably the outside of Mack and Stewart, the And Anthony Walker, actually. Actually, let's talk about this. There's you got Terrell Basham, Zach Banner, and Anthony Walker. 3 guys who I think are going to be solid contributors on different teams next year. Anthony Walker with the Browns, Banner with the Steelers, and then Basham still with the Jets, right? I believe. To be honest, he's probably their best actual true edge rusher. Outside of obviously they brought in Carl Lawson. Actually, but they brought in Vinny Curry too. They brought in a few guys. Oh, now he's with the Cowboys now. Okay. So, which I mean, they're kind of light at edge too. So, yeah, I mean, those guys, they're going to serve, they're going to be contributors elsewhere. Really, the only thing you have to speak of is in this class is a running back 2, maybe, and then a 0 tech. So, yeah, it's kind of an F class. Speaking of F classes, let's take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Leonard Fournette, man, 4th overall pick, running back. Yeah, man, at least, I don't think we're going to see this again, at least in my lifetime. I think the age of the running back going in the top 10 may be gone, may be done. We may see it every blue moon, but I think it's done. And it's kind of weird because the best pick here, you got to say it's Cam Robinson, right? I think Dwayne Smoot, you can make a case for because he's a solid rotation guy. I don't think he's never going to be the guy, but he's a good rotation guy. But Cam Robinson, I mean, he's all right. He's okay. I don't think he was worth the franchise tag. But I mean, that's neither here or there. I mean, okay, let's take a realistic look. Westbrook, he ain't on the roster no more. But it's like Smoot. Smoot's really the only guy that's going to be pegged for the future. Even worse, Leonard Fournette, not even on the roster anymore. He's out there getting paid cheap by the Bucks. Jeez Louise. I mean, this is an F class, easy. Lo behold, it's actually not the worst class. But we got what? The Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. You know this is an A. A+++. I don't care if they got another starter. When you have the best quarterback in the league, when you draft the best quarterback in the league, I think you won the draft. Kareem Hunt, things were going pretty well for him. And then obviously, things got derailed by some off-field stuff. So, I mean, again, that sucks. That was kind of out of their control. I don't know if, how do you say that? Tana? Still on the squad. He might be elsewhere. Yeah, he's with the Saints now. So I don't think they have anyone outside of Mahomes from this class. And really, and to be honest, I don't really care. Mahomes is, again, best quarterback in the league. You could debate that, guaranteed top 3. Yeah, they kind of did good. The Los Angeles Chargers. Ended up giving this one a D. I'm kind of mixed up about this because Mike Williams is solid. I don't know. He doesn't feel like a top 10. He doesn't feel like a receiver you spend the 7th overall pick on, though, does he? He's a good jump ball guy, but that's really about it. Obviously, Lamp and Feeney, we kind of know how that whole thing went. They're trying to improve the interior of that offensive line, and they kind of missed on those 2 guys. Rashawn Jenkins ended up signing a pretty big money deal in Jacksonville, which was kind of wild. But he was adequate. Desmond Keane, man, I can't believe Keane got away for cheap. I thought he was a pretty solid player there. Sam Tevy never developed. So really we're only basing this on Mike Williams. So I think that's why I gave it a D. Los Angeles Rams, I ended up giving it a C. It's pretty darn close to a D though. John Johnson's easily a top 5 safety in the league. It's a shame that the Rams weren't able to financially hold on to him. But, like, they drafted well. Like, Gerald, despite not having a first-round pick. Like, Cooper Kupp might be the only guy left on the roster from this class. Denzel Smart actually might be still. Oh, no, he's with the Jets. Interesting. I remember him playing in Tulane, though. But Gerald Everett ended up being, I thought he was a pretty solid pick. Like him and Higbee are actually a pretty fun 1-2 punch there at the tight end position. Cooper Kupp ended up being a very good pick. And honestly, I think if I were to keep one of their top 5 picks here, it would be Cooper Kupp. He plays probably the most vital position. Josh Reynolds was always a pretty solid rotation guy there. Samson Ibukem, I think he's another guy that's a good rotation guy. He ended up getting paid to go to San Fran because they really love their pass rushers. But yeah, I gave it a C, man. They drafted well. Just the only guy they ended up keeping is Cooper Kupp. Just to show I have no bias. Dolphins, I gave it an F. Literally, there is no one from this roster still on the squad. Charles Harris, abysmal pick. Raekwon McMillan, we ended up trading him to the Raiders, and I don't even know where he is right now. I think he might be with the Patriots, something like that. Tanker Slay might still there's no way Tanker Slay is still on the squad. There's no way he's still on the squad. Cause we're pretty decent at corner. Yeah, he's a free agent. Okay, I thought so. Honestly, our best pick ended up being Devon Gacho, and now he's with the Patriots. Oh boy, thank goodness. I had high hopes for Isaiah Ford to be at least a really good return man. Didn't end up happening, but yeah, easy F. Minnesota Vikings. I'm giving them a D for Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, great pick, and it was in the second round. You know, I'm not too mad about that. But outside of that, they got nothing from this class with all the picks that they had. Granted, only 2 of those were in the top 100. Pat Elflein, after he moved from center to guard, just like he had a promising rookie season, ended up just being bad. Jaleel Johnson's a pretty solid depth guy. But yeah, Fidi Odenigbo like ended up being, I think he is a solid, like he's a solid third pass rusher in a rotation. And now he's in New York. So really you only got Johnson, who's more of probably a depth guy. And then Cook, your best player in this draft was a running back. On to, speak of the devil, the New England Patriots, they had all of 4 picks, man. Wise was probably their best pick up here. Rivers not even on the squad anymore. Garcia didn't last too long either. I gave it an F. Again, they got a contributor out of Wise, which is like, oh yeah, it's a plus, but with such few picks, I mean, you could say it's a D for considering what they had in draft capital, but come on. New Orleans Saints, I gave it an A, dude. This is like a legendary draft. Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Alvin Kamara, Trey Hendrickson. You can even say Anzalone, who's, speaking of which, where'd he go? Just out of curiosity. Detroit Lions. Oh, that's interesting. But Hendrickson, obviously they couldn't pay him, so he's off to Cincinnati. But they have their top 4 guys that they drafted in the class. And it's funny because Marshawn Lattimore might be the worst of the bunch. I think Marcus Williams is a top 5 safety potentially. I think Kamara, you could argue he's probably top 5 at his position, which is running back. So, Ryan Ramczyk, I think you could say he's easily top 5 at his position. The dude is really, really good. This is an A class. They did pretty darn well. The New York Giants, I ended up giving this one an F. Dalvin Tomlinson, probably their best pick, isn't even on the squad anymore. Evan Ingram's just had so many ups and downs, and like straight up with Evan Ingram, man, he's not a good blocking tight end. You know exactly what he's supposed to be, a receiving tight end, and drops have kind of been an issue, especially last year. Tomlinson Tomlinson was he was a very, very intrinsic part to that defensive line. He mainly headed up the zero tech there with Dexter Lawrence, excuse me. Now he's gone. They have they have nothing but Ingram from this class. It's an F, man. It's an F. The Jets, they get away with D though. Outside of their first 2 picks, I think Elijah McGuire might be the guy that had the most playing time on the squad. And I might be remembering his time with the Raiders, not even the Jets. Jamal Adams, hey, they got multiple first-round picks back from Adams. Adams was pretty darn good. And the guy they're essentially replaced Adams with, their next pick, Marcus May, might be the better coverage safety. So, yeah, Marcus May has actually been really good, man. Just kind of in the shadow of Adams and kind of emerged this year, man. He deserves some credit. And I think he's finally getting it. So I gave it a D because they only got 1 starter from the class. Granted, they got multiple first rounders. You could probably say C. Maybe this is average. But you kind of expect you could get someone could stay on the roster outside of just May. The Oakland Raiders at this time, not in Las Vegas yet. This draft class, literally, their best pick, I put nobody. This was the worst draft class easily. Like Obi Melifonwu probably should have got converted to corner, never did. Eddie Vanderdoes. Everyone expected him to be so much bigger than what he actually became, man. Just a guy with huge upside, just could never fulfill the potential. Garyon Conley, I thought it was just a bad scheme fit for him. But still, he wasn't even really pegged to be a first rounder because he had some character concerns going into the draft. Just they literally got, I think Marquell Lee might have been the guy with the most starts on this squad, from this draft class, and he ain't that good. This is a bad, very poorly drafted class. On to the next. Philadelphia Eagles, I gave this one a F as well, man. It's just not that hardcore of an F. It's borderline D. Probably their best pick is Derek Barnett, and they didn't pick up a 5th-year option on him. So I think they didn't pick up the 5th year on him, right? No, he's still part of the squad. But I don't expect them to pay him in the Eagles' future. I don't expect them to pay him big money. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, never mind. They did give it to him. All right, solid. He hasn't been I don't think he's been as good as. I don't think he has been nearly as good as he was his rookie season, which obviously 2017 season they go on to win the Super Bowl. But yeah, no, he's just kind of been quiet. He hasn't been bad. He's just not worth what they invested, a 14th overall pick. Sidney Jones, injuries, man, really derailed that cat's career. And he kind of emerged last year at the end of the year with Jacksonville, but now he's probably stuck in on the as depth on that depth chart. Rasul Douglas ended up being actually a quality starter for the Panthers last year. So I like the Eagles. Eagles need cornerback help. What did they really get? The only other person left on the squad here, like Mac Hollins had some moments, but he's not even on the squad anymore. Nathan Geary, who safety out of Nebraska, they moved him to linebacker. It's probably outside of Barnett's been the most solid player, but like, you really think Barnett and Geary, like, there's a future in Philly with those guys? I don't know. Like, I'm willing to give this class a D, but I'm telling you, probably after this next season, it'll be an F, because they're going to look back at this class with nothing to show of, like, from it. Pittsburgh Steelers, easy A. They got TJ Watt. Juju Smith-Schuster, one of the better slot receivers in the class. I know, man, everyone gets all bent ass shaped about his TikTok, but like, low-key, he is a playmaker, and he's a playmaker at his best when in the slot. Cameron Sutton, like, they have a lot of confidence in Sutton. I like Sutton a lot. When he has been on the field, he has been very solid, and he gives them a reason to... He gave them a reason to not have to pay Mike... What was it, Mike Holton? No. Hilton, Mike Hilton. Wow. There we go. He gave them a reason, so they're probably going to utilize Cameron Sutton in the slot next year. James Conner was pretty solid for what they got out of him. And Joshua Dobbs, he was kind of a fun backup quarterback for a little bit. But like, mainly, like, looking at their top 100 picks, still on the squad, and they're all going to be big contributors coming into next season. So yeah, it's an easy A. San Francisco 49ers, take a look at their top 100 picks. Yeah, not that good, but I'm going to give it a C, because Witherspoon, honestly, like, Witherspoon, when healthy, is pretty solid. The problem is he's never healthy. Joe Williams, man, never panned out of Utah. But George Kittle pulled him in the 5th round. Again, very good pick, but health's kind of been an issue for him too recently. DJ Jones, low key, 6th round pick out of Mississippi. Like, he's been a very good depth piece. Like, he's been in that defensive line rotation constantly. So obviously we know Solomon Thomas being the big bust there. And then their other 1st round pick, Reuben Foster. Again, would have been great if not for the character stuff. Even Adrian Cobalt had a solid, or is it Colbert? Had a solid little run there at safety. I think it was, yeah, no, he was definitely playing safety for San Fran. But I gave it a C just because Kittle, man, he's probably, he's probably top 3 at his position. Jones is a quality depth guy on the roster that actually enjoys some playing time in the rotation there. Bethard's actually been a bit solid backup. And then obviously Witherspoon, when healthy, is actually pretty darn good. I'm kind of curious. Is Bethard even? He's on Jacksonville. Well, shoot, I didn't know CJ was on Jacksonville now. What's he gonna do? He ain't gonna win the backup job against Gardner Minshew. Anyway, Seattle Seahawks. I gave this an F. I know some names might pop out to you, like Chris Carson, which is the only name still on the roster. Well, that's not true. Ethan, was it Posick? Is still on the roster. I think he's currently their center, right? I know he is definitely in their starting lineup. But I mean, that's just how bad Seattle's offensive line is. But I mean, yeah, you see Chris Carson again, when you could say the best pick of this draft class was the running back position, you're not in good shape. Shaquille Griffin, yeah, no, he was pretty solid for a couple of seasons, but guess what? He's now in Jacksonville. David Moore really good late round selection. Like, I thought they got some solid mileage out of Moore, given for what he was, and or where they drafted him at. And yeah, now he's in Carolina. So essentially all they got was a very below average center in Ethan there. We all know what happened with Malik McDowell, who had what was it? It was like a quad accident, right? He had the quad in, like, it was some freak accident like that. I think he's actually trying to make a comeback in the league. Yeah. The Browns signed him on. Interesting. But yeah, man. Woof. Yeah, literally the only cat still on the roster here is a running back and a piss poor center. So yeah, it's an F. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I gave this one a C. I really love the Chris Godwin pick. 3rd round, like their top one. Honestly, their top 100 picks. There 3 picks in the top 100. I thought we're all pretty solid. Like Justin Evans, he's still something there in the, like, he's still a good, valuable depth piece. OJ Howard, we're all still waiting for him to just emerge, man. If anything, like, he's been talked about among trade rumors. So maybe something like that will come up, but they literally got nothing else out of the class there. So I gave it a C. It's average. You got a Pro Bowler. You got one of the, I think Chris Godwin is at the top 10 of his position, and the wide receiver position is an exceptionally important position. And then Justin Evans, and Howard are just kind of like, oh well. Tennessee Titans, Corey Davis. They were like, I think it's easy to look back and say, yeah, he's not worth the 5th overall pick. But I mean, man, he had a pretty good year last year. But there was no way you were going to sign him back based on that. Dory Jackson was a real shame, man. When healthy, he is a very good corner in the league. And I don't know what Tennessee was thinking when they just got rid of him. Taylor never really developed. Jonnu Smith, he was actually developing real nicely, but they ended up not trying to retain him in free agency. Jaylen Brown, actually one of the more underappreciated linebackers, I think, in the league. He is one of the better coverage linebackers in the league, man. I'm telling you all that. Probably their best pick here in terms of value. And he's actually the only pick still on the roster, I believe. So, yeah, you got to give this a C. I mean, they drafted well. They just weren't able to keep their talent. I don't know why. Like, with the Dory Jackson, just why? I don't understand. I just don't. And then finally, the Washington, whatever the heck you want to call them. They were a different name at this time. So, whatever fancies you, I really don't care. They went with Jonathan Allen, who's been okay. Like, he hasn't been bad. He's okay. He's been good, but again, it's a position that doesn't really do much in terms of just how like it's not as valuable as other positions. Fabian Moreau, probably one of their other low-key pretty good picks, not even on the roster anymore. Jeremy Sprinkle, he had moments to shine, like, but really they're probably, in my opinion, their best pick was Chase Rollier, their center out of Wyoming. The dude, low key, he's been one of the better, like, offensive interior players in the class. But at that, I still gave it a D because probably the best 2 players in this draft class are both offensive and then defensive interior players. They're guys that just don't impact the game as much as you would like. But let me know what you think in the comment section below of these draft classes. Remember, tomorrow we're getting the NFL, the 2017 NFL redraft. So check out the channel for that. Stay tuned for the podcast. We'll have another one out next week. So be on the look for that. I think we're going to be doing more redrafts. So we'll probably be doing the 2018 at that time. But thanks for the support. And until next time, you bees, my friends. Later.